Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Tat Purushaya Vitmahe. Vakratundhaya Dhimahi. Danno Dhandit Prachodayat. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Gurave Sarvalokanam, Visaje Bhavaroginaha, Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam, Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Sai Swararpanamastu. Yogena Chittasya Padhena Vacha Malam Sarirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotam Pravaram Muninam Pathanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankachakra Sidharinam Sahasrasirisham Shvetam Pranamami Pathanjalim. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Yogishwarayarpanamastu. Om Tat Sat. Sai Ram, and welcome to week 3. We had 1 week of introduction, and last week we looked at the first 14 sutras of the 196 Yoga Sutras. So today we go on to look at sutras number 15 to number 28, another 14 sutras. Okay, sutras, as I said to you, are little gems or caplets that, joined together, make a beautiful garland, which is then fit to be offered to the Lord. So, verse 15. Drasta anusravika visaya vitrasnasya vasikara samnyak vairakyam. Right? Drishta means drishti, what you see, what you perceive directly, that is called drishta. Anusravika, what you see, and that is joined with, the basis of the scripture or a valid testimony, if you like, right? So, drishta, anusravika, vishaya. Vishaya means what you see, either an object or something that is attractive, something that automatically pulls you, like akarshana, like magnetic. Vitrasnasya. Vitrasnasya means you are completely devoid of any cravings, for one who does not crave, basically. Vasikara means through control, like I said, control, basically. Samnya. Samnya means consciousness. Samnya. And of course, vairagyam. Vairagyam means as a detachment or non-interest. So, drishta anusravika visaya vitrasnasya vasikara samnya vairagyam. That means whatever non-interest within the operations of the mental, emotional energy is achieved by one who has perfect mastery in the consciousness. And because he's got that mastery in the consciousness, he does not crave for what is perceived or what is heard in the mundane existence. So basically one who is risen above desires. Okay. See, to silence the mental emotional energy, simple example I give you. You're doing something and suddenly your mind, right? The manas produces a thought, chitta. The chitta is looking at a nice cold drink. Outside is hot. Or if you're in a cold country, outside is cold, inside, you're feeling cold, you want a hot drink. So you want a hot drink, or you want a cold drink, or you want a drink. Now with that thought, straight away the mental emotional energy feels, I need to go and get the drink now. Then you have to stop whatever you're doing, and your body will only be at peace once it gets that craving resolved, or craving solved, craving fed. Once you feed that craving, then and only then it stops. So here what Maharishi Patanjali is saying is, in order for you to go within, you have to stop your attachment to the outside, a gross existence. Only when you stop craving for things at the gross level, will you be able to tap into the subtle level. Simple. Subtle energy, gross energy, saying how to jump, right? So any craving triggers a renewed interest in the world. It's like you cut it off, but then another craving reattaches the bond, the bandha to the world, right? This, of course, the moment you start that attachment or that craving or that desire again, it starts 5 levels of vibrations. Automatically, it starts 5 levels of vibrations. Perception, correct or incorrect. Imagination, memory, and sleep, right? So correct perception, incorrect perception, imagination, memory, and sleep. I covered this last week, but he's saying this again. So he's saying the moment you stop craving for outside, anything outside or anyone outside, then you begin to go inside. Vitrastasya vasikara samyak vairagyam. So that non-attachment will only take you inside, right? So how do you do that? Well, very easy. Reduce your desire. When I did Bhaja Govindam, I told you, right? Muda jahihi danagama trishnam guru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishnam yella bashe nija karmo phatham vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Right? He says, hey Muda, hey fool. Jahihi danagama trishnam. He said, move away from this thirst. Thirst of what? Dhana, ghana, all this, all your doshas, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, mamada, machira, kara, dhana. All this, he says, move away. Guru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishnam. Learn to focus the mind on a guru or on the teachings of the guru. Yella bashe nija karmo patham, right? When you reach that level of total subservience to that one-pointed devotion, vittam tena vinodaya chittam, there will be no other thoughts vibrating in your mind except that one emergence between the two. Increase non-attachment, reduce desire, right? Reduce desire, increase non-attachment. That's the only way to do it. That's verse 15. Verse 16 reads, Tat param purusha yathe gunavaitrasnyam. Gunavaitrasnyam, right? Tat means that. Param means, like you say, parashanti, prashanti. Param means highest. Purusha, as you know, right? God or God form. Manusha, human form. Purusha, God form, the highest level of spiritual oneness. Hyate, yate means you are aware at all times. Thorough awareness, if you like. Guna means guna, your features. Features that relates to material the world, the three gunas. Vaitrasnyam, free from desire, basically. So, tat param purushakyate guna vaitrasnyam means the highest non-interest will only happen when there is freedom from desire. Desire from what? From the features of the material nature. The more you have the desire, the more awareness your spirituality gains. The more desire you have, the more awareness your materialistic person gets. So you got two persons living within you. One is the materialistic side and one is the spiritual side. Right? See, the understanding is not that you cannot desire for money, but even your desire for money must be to have it so that you can help everyone else, not just self-enrichment. So that means you're not desiring that money for yourself. So you must do dhana with dhana. When you do dhana with dhana, then you're reducing your desire by not attaching yourself to that dhana. And then the spiritualistic person, the spirituality in you gains more awareness and more attraction to the universal energies. And the more universal energy it attracts and absorbs and assimilates within you, the higher you rise. Remember last week I was telling you in one of the verses where Patanjali uses the word Dirgha Khalaha. That means a long time. If you're going down this path of Dhyana Yoga, right? Or you're going down the path of Raja Yoga, it doesn't mean you get instant results. Dirgha Khalaha means it takes a long time, right? But you only can do it if you approach the Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. Then Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and then Samadhi. Only if you do it in this way, right? Then only the Purusha and the Prakriti will lend their hand to your efforts. So that is verse 16. Very short, very straightforward, right? Now verse 17 goes on to say, Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmitta Rupa Anugamat Sampraknyatha. Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmitha Rupa Anugamat Sampraknyatha. Vitarka means analysis. Vichara means investigation, deliberation, reflection, that sort of thing. Ananda means like a bliss, happiness, introspection, right? Asmita Rupa means, Asmit means me, I, my, that minus, that self-consciousness. Anugamat means me and something else. That means something that accompanies me. Something occurs with something else. Anugamat means two things going together. Sampraknyataha. Sampraknyataha means what you see, you're linking with a higher consciousness. Sampraknyataha. Okay. So basically what this verse means is the observational linkage that connects the attention of the seeker to the higher concentration forces of universal energy occurs only with analysis, reflection, and inner happiness. Beautifully saying, even though you detach, you must be, inside of you must be, feeling a sense of elation, a sense of bliss, a sense of contentment. This is Ananda, right? There must be some introspection, and that introspection must give you happiness. Then he is also saying, on reflection, on analysis, you can work out between the lower or base energies and the higher or universal energies, and you want to move away from the base, and by analysis and reflection link up to the higher one. Vitarka Vichara Ananda Asmit Rupa Anugamat Sampraknyataha. So he says, how do you cultivate non-interest in the mundane world and then link up, there's a linkage there, and jump to the higher concentration forces. It's like you're watching TV and you have the remote in your hand and you have some 100 channels, In 1 hour, you may not watch anything if you keep jumping, from one channel to another 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 channel. You will never watch anything for 2 minutes. But if you, with intent, you said, I only want to watch this, it doesn't matter what good programs or better programs or other types of programs are running in other channel, and you only click to that channel. And that is what he's saying, to have a one-pointed focus. Your mental, emotional energies are kept in line. Then you will enter into, from a disturbed stage of being to a neutral stage of being. And once you enter that neutral stage of being, you are vibrating at a certain level. That vibration will attract and call to the universal forces. But if you fall below that, then the universal energies will take a back step, and the base energies will come and say, okay, time for you to switch the channel. Okay, time for you to go and have a meal. Okay, time for you to go and have a drink. Okay, time for you to call your friend and go out. Whatever. It brings you back. It will try. Because who has to control their own senses? Your pancha indriyas, your jnana indriyas, your karma indriyas, everything is controlled by you. Intelligence will dictate to the buddhi, and the buddhi will then use the right sort of speech, isn't it? If you do not let the intelligence control the buddhi, then everything will be haywire. This is the very basis of Bhagavad Gita. When I, instructed you on Bhagavad Gita, I spoke to you about the picture of Krishna holding the reins of the 5 horses. Right? I told you what the 5 horses are. I told you the reins from the horses, which is being held by Krishna. Who is Krishna? And then Krishna is gently turning back slightly and looking at Arjuna. Who is Arjuna? Where is Arjuna seated? On the chariot. What is the chariot? Chariot is based on what? 4 wheels. What are the 4 wheels? What is on the right side of the wheel? What is on the left side of the wheel? What is the front of the wheel? At the end of the picture, the horizon, everything I gave you a meaning. And that is, but just the 5 horses represent your 5 senses. The reins from those horses is something called viveka, or sense of discrimination. And Krishna holding it means Krishna represents intelligence, right? Buddhi. Only when the buddhi exercises discrimination in controlling its senses, it can then dictate to the mind. So Krishna is instructing Arjuna. Arjuna represents the confused mind, manas, right? Chariot is your body. The body has to stand erect. The chariot is on 4 wheels. The 4 wheels represent the 4 Vedas, right? The 4 yogas, the 4 yajnas, the 4 purusharthas, the 4, ashramas. So everything is based. Fantastic meaning. So he's saying, if you do not control all this will control you. Like they did Arjuna. And he was he was put in such a state of confusion that he did not know whether to do his dharma or not to do his dharma, because he couldn't see the truth, because the truth was veiled by all these desires, this attachment. My great grandsire is there, my great teacher is there, all my cousins are there, all my friends are on the other side. How can I kill them? How can I, do anything to them? So Arjuna was in such a state of confusion. Right? But we must thank Arjuna, because if he was not in a state of confusion, today you and I would not have the Bhagavad Gita. So sometimes confusion helps, but only in the presence of right-minded people, because then the right-minded people can instruct you on the right path. Right? Otherwise, confusion is useless. Okay, that is verse 17, right? I mean, whatever you read, if you're reading the actual verses, right, the explanations may be slightly high flown. So I'm just toning it down to very base level. So you understand, right? Even though you don't understand what the sutras themselves mean, you know by application what you should be doing. So that is the teaching, right? So verse 18 says Virama, right? Virama pratyaya abhyasa purva sanskara sesanyaha. Virama means something that you, how can I say, lose, when you lose track, you get something, you drop something, that is called virama. Prayaya means awareness. Either you are mentally aware or you become aware as a result of something someone say to you, you hear opinions, you see something, you hear, that is prayaya. Abhyasa means practice. Abhyasa. I told you two things you need if you want to go down this route. One is abhyasa, practice. The other is vairagya, detachment. With practice and detachment, you're on your right track. Purva means before. That's why you see the word purva on many suprabhadams. You will see purva. Purva sandhya, that means before. Okay. Sanskara seshaha. Sanskara and seshaha, right? And then anya comes at the end. Samsara. Samsara, of course, you know, right? Samsara means samskara sesha nyayaha. Samskara means impression. Impressionistic levels of energy between the mental and emotional energy. Sheshaha means that which is remaining. And of course, anya means other. So, virama pratyaya abhyasa purva sanskara sesanyaha basically means the other state is the complete departure. Right? Complete departure from the level where the remaining impressions continuously take you back to the base energies. So this is just expanding verse 17 when he goes to verse 18 by saying, this is one side, right? The other side is the moment you give in a little bit, it will come and pull you back. If you're going, the moment you stop, it will try and pull you back a little. You stop, you pull you back a little, pull you back a little, because the remaining impressions are still lying down in the base energy. So if you're trying to leave the base energy and go, the remaining base energy will pull you back. It's like this story. I think I mentioned this story when I did I did something with you. I told you this story. I just remember the story. I don't know when, whether it was Bhajagovindam or Ramayana or Bhagavad Gita or Karma or Puranas or Upanishads. The story about this man on a camel. He was traveling and nightfall, So he stopped the camel, he set up the tent, and he was inside his tent, when the camel put its head inside the camp. And he said, Master, I am feeling very cold. Can I just put my head inside the tent? And the master said, okay, right. And then after a while, it said, can I put one of my legs? And then after a while, it said, can I put another one of my legs? Right? In the morning, the master woke up outside the tent and the camel was inside the tent. So Patanjali, what he's saying is exactly like that. If you let the base instincts or the base energies come and attack you little by little, at the end of the day, they will be fully living in your mind and you will be living outside in the world. Very difficult to get back in. So this is what he's saying in verse 18. Okay. Verse 19, he's saying, Bhava pratyaya videha prakriti layanam. Bhava, as we say, bhava. Bhava pratyaya videha prakriti layanam. Right? What does it mean? Bhava means, of course, your psyche, your inherent nature. Bhava. That's why they say when you sing bhajans, you have to sing with bhava. The internal I-ness and minus must go to the universalness. Right? Then only you're vibrating in the right level. Bhajans. Pratyaya means objective awareness, your mental state, mental content. Videha means that those who have bodies, bodily persons. Prakriti means nature, material nature. Layanam means, laya means to join, to be diffused in a material nature. So basically it means those who are diffused, he's talking about of those who are diffused in the subtle material nature and those who are existing in a bodiless state. In both, their psychology or their mental state is content. Content in that happiness or content in this happiness, but in both state, right, it is content. It is content because that's what you want, right? Again, this is another jolt, if you like, a jolt that Patanjali is giving. He says, why in some cases, some yogis are so highly advanced, some acharyas, some teachers, some gurus are highly advanced, and in other cases, they are not. And you can easily tell, the genuine from the ingenuine. And Shankara says that. So he says, the fact is, the guy who is a fake, he's happy in doing that because that is the very complete mental status of his, and he's got contentment in that. Whereas the other fellow who's got siddhic powers and who's rising, he's also got contentment, but that contentment relates to that state of being. He's completely detached from that ingenuineness. So in verse 19, Patanjali is saying, you will only become what you are content with becoming. Yad bhavam tat bhavati. This is an yad bhavam tat bhavati. As the man, as the mind, so the man. Yatho manas tatho manushya. Where the mind is, that's where the man will be. So verse 18 is again going back to the mind. You see, we are almost 20 verses, and all 20 verses are only focusing on the mind. I told you mind, body, and then spirit, right? So it's telling the mind how it should be completely detached from the desires of the body, right? So until you're detached here, that one will not get any power. There's no connection. The moment you're detached, then all the energies are being diverted there, and that begets, and begets, and begets. Okay, so Patanjali is asking us to think about why in some cases someone's become powerful, others become less powerful. Again, I think when I did Mandukya Upanishad with you, I spoke to you about this, and even Shankaracharya, when I did Bhaja Govindam also, I told you, some have to do all kinds of karma kandas, like Agnihotras and these, that. Whereas others just sit in meditation and they can get something as powerful, if not more powerful. He says it is because of the extent of contentment with the state of the mind. So either you want to get contentment in the temporary, or you are looking to get content in the permanent world. The energy spent is the same. So the contentment is also the same, but only the different levels. So which level you want to be is entirely up to you. That's what he's saying in this verse. Going to verse 20. Right? Verse 20 says, Shraddha vidya samadhina prajna purvaka itaresam. Right? Shraddha means confidence, faith, trust, confidence. Virya means vigor, like energy, stamina. Smriti, shruti, smriti. Memory, introspection. Samadhi means a state of being where is complete effortless detachment from everything else. You're vibrating in the higher force. Prajna means insight or profundity, Purvaka means previously what you have been doing, or previous practice, if you like. Ithihasas means for others, basically. So for others, things like confidence, things like stamina, things like introspective memory, things like continuous efforts will produce some linkage or connection with the higher forces. And for some others, just profound insight, when mastered, will serve the cause. Beautifully explained, right? So, it's like if you have a disease, you have to take some medicine. And if somebody else has some other, disease, they have to take that medicine. Only if they keep taking the medicine, they will control or regulate that disease to a level where they can lead, a sort of a normal life. This is, I always mention this, right? You only get a disease when your body is at a state of discomfort. In other words, dis-ease. When you're born with ease, E-A-S-E. But then you indulge, desire, itcha, you want. The ease is no longer at ease because it's overwhelming now. It's become a dis-ease. In other words, disease. They take too much sugar, too much salt, too much of anything, basically, right? It's no good. So Patanjali Muni very clearly says, what you need is to build the stamina. So he says, if you are going to go for a 5-kilometer race, on day one of practice, you cannot run 5 kilometers. Maybe you run 1 kilometer. But if you keep only running that 1 kilometer, you cannot participate in the 5-kilometer race. So how do you build your stamina? Virya. How do you build your Shraddha, your confidence in whether you can run the 5-kilometer race? Right? You must have a state of non-attachment. You must come to a state of samadhi with regards to the 5-kilometer race. And in that, you must have some introspection by saying, first day 1 kilometer, second day 1.2, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. You must do more than 5. Then only you can hit 5. So you do 5.5. Now, when you've done 5.5, you are fit. You've got the stamina, you've got the confidence, you've got the introspection to run 5 kilometers. Confidence, stamina, memory, continuous effort. This is what he's saying. Only when you have and you continuously do that, then you can. For some. For others, he said they just have to sit. And because they are built that way, right? They are built that way means they come with certain energies, isn't it? Because I'm going back to karma now, right? Maybe you are 80%. To get that extra 20%, you're born again. So in this life, that 20% is quite easily get begotten because you're already vibrating at a higher level. So those kind of people, that profound insight, all being previously mastered, purvaka. He says, for others, this will do. But for most, we have to go through the, originating motions. Otherwise, you will not build the stamina. If you don't build the stamina, you won't have the confidence. If you don't have the stamina and the confidence, you will not have the right sort of introspection. If you don't have the right sort of introspection, you cannot be at a state of non-attachment. Simple. Samadhi means, this is the 8th stage. Again, I come back to yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, 8th stage. Even when you look at the figure of 8, the figure of 8, it represents what sign? Figure of 8 represents infinity, right? That's why the 8th stage is called the stage of infiniteness. There is no beginning, no end. You are neither here nor there. You are at a stage of completeness. Complete completeness, where you don't feel a sense of belonging anywhere. You the universe. You become that energy that you sought to merge with, right? And that is your inherent nature. So you're just going out to look for something that resonates with your inner self. Very, very fantastic, actually, right? Will you know? Yes, because your soul is vibrating at a universal level. Only your body is vibrating at a material level. Only your body is materially active. Soul is active at a different level, right? So you must do not what your body needs. You must do what your soul needs. Okay. So he tells you in verse 21, right? How do you get that? That's why I say it's such a science, how they connect one verse to another. It's like a bridge. It's difficult, you use this bridge to get there. Then it's difficult, you use another bridge to get there. It's difficult, you use another bridge to get there. And that's why they call sutras one cycle of unending direction, motion, coercion. 21 says, Tivra samveghanam asannaha. Tivra means intense. Samvegana means those, sometimes you do something with a sense of, I need to do this, I need to get it done, that samvegana, vegam, forcibly do it, no nonsense, do and do. Asana means one, whatever is near or whatever is coming, like coming soon, like preview, next, what is coming next. So, Tivra Samveghanam Asanna means for those who practice forcefully in a very intense way, the skill of yoga will be achieved very soon. Asannaha is coming, right? But you must continuously do. See how he talked about the 5-kilometer race. The 5-kilometer race is my example, but only when you do that continuously, isn't it? When we talk about great sports personality and say, wow, they're so good, like, what's his name? Lewis Hamilton in the Formula One race. You've got Tiger Woods playing golf and, world figures. They don't just get the success overnight. You must look at their practice regime, how much they practice, and then they become that number one. This is what Patanjali is saying. You want to merge with the universe through dhyana yoga, then practice yama. Master that, go to niyama. Master that, go to asana. That is why our people, even in the early days, they were giving you yogic poses. How you should sleep, in what direction you should be sleeping. This is Panchabhutas. I'll give you one session on Panchabhutas. Right? Which head must be facing where, leg must be facing where, right? How you should sit and eat. That is a yogic pose. The way you are supposed to sit and eat, it's a yogic pose. But now, of course, we are creatures of comforts. So we want to sit in a comfy chair, comfy table, everything coming at the level of this chakra, heart chakra. Not when you're sitting down and you're completely aligned your chakras to the base, Prakriti, earth. Now there is no connection, only your feet. Even the feet is not touching the ground because you're wearing slippers or shoes at home. Right? Touch. Life has become so comfortable. So we're losing touch. Even the ancient method of, opening your bowels, the Indian method, squatting. That is also a yogic pose. If you see your feet is straight and then your legs are bent and then your back is straight. You don't have, those days they never had all these problems. They didn't have problems like, what do you call that? When you, constipation, all that they didn't have. It's all modern disease. So, Tivra, do it and do it with vigor, intensely. Then when you do it, Samveganam, those who do it, practice, then whatever is coming to you is coming nearer and nearer. Asannaha. Patanjali says you cannot conclude your yoga practice in any life without two things: intensity and persistence. Only when you have intensity and persistence, yoga will be beneficial for you. Otherwise, he says, it is impossible. Impossible, he says. Okay. Verse 22, he says there are ratings. People do yoga, they say, we do yoga, like you go to many of these bhajans and kirtans and all these places, they say, okay, right, let's do 10 minutes of dhyana. I said to you, dhyana is the 7th stage. Dhyana is the stage before samadhi. Right? Can you imagine by now how many people would have reached samadhi if they've done dhyana properly? But because of the absence of the 6 preceding stages of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, the 6 stages are missing. How can you start with dhyana? So here in verse 22 of the 196 verses, in verse 22, Patanjali is saying, there are levels of yogic practices. He says, Mrudu, Madhya, Adima Tratvat, Tatha Api Visheshaha. Right? Mrudu means slight. Madhya means the middle, like middle way. Adima Tratvat means intense. Tatha, then, Api, even, Visheshaha, rating. Okay? So, Mrudu Madhya, Adima Tratvat, Tatha Api Visheshaha means then there are even more ratings according to intensity, according to mediocrity, according to extent of practice. Right? So he gives 4 levels. He says there are people who will practice yoga very intensely. And this is Tivra Samvega. In verse 21, I said to you, Tivra Samvega. In 22, that was 21. 22, he's saying now, Mrudu. Mrudu means slight. It was complete opposite of Tirva Samvega. Opposite end. One is very intense, the other is very slight. Then you have slightly better than slight, you have Madhya. Madhya means the middle somewhere. Right? And then you have Adimatratva. That means intense. And then it was Tivra Samvega. Very intense. It's true enough. If you go and observe people who do dhyana, some people after 1-2 minutes, that is at the mrudu level. Some will sit for a little bit longer. That is madhya level. Right? Some will sit and do for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and then keep opening the eyes and looking. This is intense, but without any attachment to reach the greater intensity. Ones who will sit, and even after sitting for a while, they find it difficult to come out. That is Tivra Samvega, where, they are liking what they are doing. That means they are feeling the stillness and that oneness. That means they are going from outside to inside. So it's becoming more quiet. And one point, they can hear the silence. My God. Can you imagine? So very intense. Beautiful. And verse 23 is something that I've done in reflections. In one of the reflection series recently, I think a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I spoke about Ishvara Pranidhanatva. Ishvara Pranidhana. Verse 23 is exactly that. Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara means the Lord. Pranidhana means, something that has been received from profound religious meditation. Right? So remember, I said some people have to do lots of things in order to get some benefit from yoga, right? I'm talking about the concentration, Others can just sit and in a few minutes, start floating. You see, you must be careful because once you go into that intensity, you must know how to cut and come back. Otherwise, you are like a satellite floating in space because you don't know how to control. That's why the chakras are important. Yeah, everything is a science of relativity. Right? So, Ishvara means supreme, or the supreme Lord or Godhead. Pranidhana, as I said, Pranidhana. I think I explained in reflections. Pran means your breath. Nidhana means a level where you are completely at peace with that breath. Pran Nidhana. Okay. Another version that I gave you also in reflections is Pran means your breath. Ni means you. Dhana means give. It's where you are giving your breath to the universe, right? When you are meditating. So you become one with the universe. So that's why as you breathe, so then you hold it and then you breathe hum, that thou art, that I am that. Yogananda Paramahamsa, I am that. So Patanjali has given you fantastic road. He's saying either this or this or this or Ishvara Pranidhana, where your entire breath is subsumed by the universal energy. And you become part of that energy, and then you come back to what you are. So can you imagine whenever you go into this stage of meditation, you go and see your creator, and then you come back, how much energized you will feel. And those of you who follow like my meditation, when I take you, from outside, go inside, and then the light travels all over you, and then the light comes out, and then you are consumed by the light. And then the next person beside you, finally everybody in the hall is consumed. And then the light goes out to consume until the entire world is consumed by the light, and you are just a speck within that consumption. And then out of this light, that is the universe, you see another bright light, that is the Ishvara. That is the Purusha. And the Purusha is blessing you. You'll see one light coming from that big light and coming back into the middle of where you started, touching you. And the moment it touches you, you've made that connection, that linkage is made, and then that light shrinks, contracts, and everything comes back from the outside into the inside, and then from the inside, you bring back that light outside. So the stage I'm talking about is when you are the light. I am the light is within me, right? Now you can see from that light, a bigger light, the Ishvara Pranidhana light comes, and then you make that connection. That is the stage I'm talking about, right? So this is what Patanjali is saying in 23. In verse 24, he talks about Klesha Karma Vipaka Asai Aparadam Rasasta Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. Klesha means like afflictions, like troubles, like things that don't go, with you. Karma is, of course, action. Vipaka is that progress or developments. Asai, subconscious levels or motivations, if you like. And then you have aparam rastaha, unaffected. Aparam rastaha. Purusha, person, Vishesha, special, Ishvara, supreme. Okay. Now, Klesha Karma Vipaka Asayi, Aparam rastaha, Purusha Vishesha, Ishvara. The Supreme Lord is that special person. The Supreme Lord is not troubled by anything. No actions, no inactions, no happiness, no sadness, and any development of a subconscious motivation. So he's saying, when you come to that level of Ishvara Pranidhana in verse 23, in 24, he's saying, then you won't be affected by anything that affects normal people, because you become like the Purusha. You are the Ishvara, And he clarified here what Ishvara meant. He's not saying you become Krishna, you become Shiva, you become Brahma, you become Vishnu, all that. No, he's saying you become the energy, the supreme energy. which of course at you have Sadguna, God with form, and you have Nitguna, God without form. So he is talking about the formless energy, Nitguna energy, Ishvara Pranidhana, Klesha Karma Vipaka Sei, Aparamrasa Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. He's saying that. So it's very, very fantastic how he's saying, you want to go to that level where you're not going to be affected by any troubles, by any feelings, by any emotions, by any actions, by any inactions, then you have to reach that level and vibrate at that level, so it's not going to affect you. That's 24. 25 is saying, Tatra Niratisayam Sarvajnabijam. 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 Tatra means there. When you see that supreme energy, Niratisayam Sarvajna Bijam, right? So by that he means when you find that supreme energy, there in him is unsurpassed origin of all knowing. Sarvajna. Sarvajna means all knowing. Bijam means that's the original seed. Seed, from the seed everything comes. Niratisayam, that means that which cannot go beyond that. Tatra means that. So Tatra Niratisayam Sarvajna Bijam. Further explanation of what that supreme energy is by not giving it any specific or human type characteristics like 4 hands, holding this in his hand, holding that in his hand, this, that. So that is Satguna level. Now he's going to Nitguna level already, So that is verse 25. 26, he talks about if you want to become this person who is unattached, unconditioned, unperturbed, unregulated, undisturbed by all of this. And verse 26 is telling, Sa Isha Purvesham Api Guru Kalena Anavachadet. What does he mean? Sa means he. Isha means that Purusha. Purvesham means, that which already existed before ancient teachers. Purvesham. Purvam, Purvesham, right? Api, even Guru, as Acharya or teacher. Kalena means Kala, time. Anavachadet means unconditioned. Anavachadet. So he, Patanjali is saying he, that supreme energy, being unconditioned by time, can be shown to you by a guru. But this guru existed even before the ancient teachers, and he is the authority among authorities. Basically, it's your inner self, that I, right? I, inner self. So when you say Sai, you are saying my spiritual, S-A, Sa means spiritual, auspicious. The auspicious I is the true I within me. External I has no value. Of course, you can be doctor, professor, you can be all of this, right? No value. The internal I, when the spirituality is turned inside out, then you have inner vision. When you have inner vision, then your vision of a sinner becomes less and less. Vision of the sinner becomes less and less as the inner vision becomes more and more supreme. And you become the supreme teacher yourself. Right? Buddha never had a teacher. Buddha never had a teacher. But when he managed to control his buddhi, he became the supreme teacher. This is what he's saying in verse 26. Right? And verse 27, he confirms. How does he confirm? This is very good, because in verse 27, Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. Tasya, that means him. Vachaka, what he said. Pranava means, of course, sacred syllable Om, Omkara. What did Krishna say to Arjuna? He said, among the sounds, I am Om. And this is exactly he's saying. Patanjali is saying in verse 27, he said, that one supreme person represents the sacred syllable of Om. A-U-M, right? If you look at the Narayana Upanishad, Mahanarayana Upanishad, there is one part that comes, Om Akara Ukara Makara Itihi. It's telling that one energy represents Akara, past, Ukara, present, and Makara, future. Was, is, will be. Everything is conditioned by that sound. And that sound really vibrates in you. It's already vibrating in you, but you can't hear it because it is so dumbed down and suppressed by all the external noises that the inner voice of Om is not heard. And the moment you say Om correctly, right, it should, just like you on the light in floor 1, then you on the light in floor 2, then you on the light in floor 3. Imagine a building with 8 floors and you're on the light in each floor. You can see one straight light from floor 1 to floor 8. Saying the Om in this way, you can on the chakras from your Mooladhara chakra right up the Sahasrara chakra, on like all the way up by practicing Om. This is called Omkara Dhyana. You got Jyoti Dhyana, you got Nir Jhalam Dhyana, you got sound, Shabda Dhyana, you got silence, and of course you have Omkara Dhyana. He says, if you can identify yourself with Om, then you have identified yourself with Krishna. Krishna told Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, I said to you, among the sounds, I am Om. Among the plants, I am Tulasi. Among the fruits, I am this. Among the sound, it goes back to Om. Among the birds, I am this. Everything he identifies himself with the nature. You are also made of nature. The 5 Panchabhutas are within you. That's 27. Tasya vachaka pranavaha, of that one great supreme person, Om is the single designation that connects them. And in verse 28, he says, Tajapa tadhartha bhavanam. Taj japa tathartham bhavanam. Right? What does that mean? That sound, which sound? What he said in 27, the sound is Om. He said that sound, Taj japa, that means that sound, when repeated continuously with the right bhavanam, will take you there. He says that sound, when repeated continuously and constantly in realization of its meaning, will take you to that end of that road. He says whimsical repetition of Om, 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 no. Om, must come from your base chakra, right? The U, Akara must come from there, just below the navel. Diaphragm must contract. Then the sound must travel up the other 3 chakras before it reaches the Vishuddha. Ooh. And of course, between the Vishuddha, the Ajna, and the Sahasrara is where the Akara is down, Ukara is here, Makara is just between here. He says, repeat this constantly, knowing this. I think when I did Bhagavad Gita, I did one session on Om. Bhagavad Gita or Puranas or Upanishads, I repeated this stuff. So go back to the YouTube videos and check for it and see. Constantly you must be watching this. Then, you get a key factor for self-regulation. Then the bhavanam comes, the bhava comes. Set yourself some time. every week or whatever, every 2 weeks, and say, this is my time. I want to do this for myself, right? And then do it. Then and only then you will begin to control your mental and emotional status. And pranayama gives you that energy. It gives you that energy, right? So that is verses 15 to 28, right? You see how beautifully he has come to just telling you, you don't need anything. You don't need mantras. You don't need shlokas. You don't need stotras. You don't need anything. You only need Om. The secret in verse 28 is given to you already. Anyada sharanam nasti tvameva sharanam mamaha. Smart karunya bhavena. Raksha raksha. Saishvaraha. Arihi Om Tat Sat. Next week, we go on to the next 14 sutras, which will give even more clarity to you. Sai Ram. Now, I want to gift you something today, right? And this will control your neurosenses. The neurosenses control your sense of emotions, like anger, for example, right? So it's very simple. If you put your hands like this, right? Then you put your other hand on top of that hand. Now you can't see my other hand because it's just on top of the hand. And then you turn it flat. I can't show you. Or maybe if I go down a little bit, turn it flat like that. And you keep it at your anahata. Anahata is here, just where your chest is. That's your heart chakra, right? You keep it there daily for 5 minutes and you meditate. It controls your neurosenses. And you find yourself becoming more calm and more controlled of your feelings and emotions. So try it and see if it works. Okay.